Reddit, what was the moment you lost respect for someone close in your life? To preface, I still love my parents, and they're usually pretty loving and supporting. But the moment I lost respect for them is when they laughed at me for saying I was going to lose weight. They said I would never be able to reach my goal. They discouraged me for eating healthy, and for joining the game this year. Well, I still have a long way to go, but so far I've dropped 40 pounds since January. I can't wait to prove them wrong when I reach my goal weight. When my dad picked sides with his wife and me, my mother had just died, talking like weeks, and she screamed at me for lying in bed, that this was her daughter's room, not fucking mine, and I need to get the fuck out. So I did. He came home from work and told me, look, I just need a quiet life now. This is the man I utterly worshipped growing up. And all this, him leaving my mom for another woman and her drinking herself to death, took place within about 6 months. And he just needed a quiet life. I was 17. I still talk to Hi Monsieur, he's still with her. My daughter now gets upset when they make her feel like less of a grandchild against the children of her kids, which kills me. My daughter adored this woman and she was the only granny she'll ever know. He gets pissed periodically about why I never phone Hi Monsieur, yeah. Wonder why daddy-o. Oh, forgot the best bit. The day after I found out my mom was dead, he called me into the living room to tell me they were getting married. He had until the day before still been married to my mom, so I guess her dying saved him the hassle of getting divorced. Oh, that second part was tough to read. I'm real sorry, man. When they got my grandfather, who was suffering from dementia, to sign away most of his possessions to them on his deathbed. This is really common. Most of the time it's done to protect the properties from doctors and hospitals when the final bills come due. The average dementia patient can rack up a few million in unpaid bills over the years. I was really super close to my step-grandfather. I'd spend summers with him and Grandma at their house in California, and it was a lot of fun. Beaches, arts and crafts, movies, and even Disneyland once. He was always a happy and smiling guy, never got angry at me, and I always looked forward to seeing him again next summer. So it came as a huge shock to me when Mom sat me down one night out of the blue and said Grandma had divorced Hi Monsieur. She said she and Grandma knew that I'd be hit the hardest by it. There wasn't much explanation beyond that. I was always curious as to why Grandma had left him, so I asked her about it one time when she came to visit. She said, Grandpa wanted to go out and travel the world, and I didn't really want to. So this way he could do that. I never heard from him again, and I don't even know his real name. He was just Grandpa to me, so I've never tried to find Hi Monsieur. Thinking back on it, Grandma was obviously super uncomfortable talking about it, but it wasn't until years later that Mom told me the truth. He had been abusing her. He would yell at her and belittle her. He would try to stop her from going to her square dance group. That was her dearest hobby. He would steal her credit card and use the money she'd earned at her job on himself. He had thrown out some very important keepsakes. I don't know what the tipping point was, but Grandma got out of it and I'm glad for her. It's likely that he was using me as ammunition against her. It's still hard to imagine that happy smiling man as a gaslighting piece of shit, but I know now how much he hurt my grandma and I hate him for that. My dad owned a landscaping, home remodeling business when I was little, and my uncle, Mom's brother, asked him to pretty much upgrade his house, meaning inside and out. They agreed on a price, but my dad, being unaware of my uncle's shady nature, just took his word for it. Well, my dad pretty much built this man a whole backyard, including all the stonework around the pool, building a gate to separate the pool area from the grass area. My uncle had small dogs, a chicken coop, and a garden that pretty much surrounded the house, as well as completely redesigning the kitchen, and all the bedrooms took about a year to do everything. Well, The time came to pay the dues and my uncle ended up paying my dad like 1/4 of what was promised. Certainly didn't help that this happened right smack dab in the middle of 2008 and I had just been diagnosed with a cancerous brain tumor that couldn't be completely removed by surgery and required 2 years of chemo and 3 months of radiation. So yeah, my family was pretty fucked. All in all, my parents ended up splitting up due to the financial shitstorm putting a strain on their relationship. We went on food stamps for a few years. My mom turned into an emotional mess, and we ended up losing our house. I know it's not all my uncle's fault, but I keep imagining how different life might have been if he wasn't such a shitbag with my dad. When my best friend put her boyfriend on the phone to talk to me while she took her dog out, I called to talk about my brother's cancer coming back. I was distraught. We were lifelong friends. She had known my brother since he was 11. I called her, not her new boyfriend. It wasn't a landline, it was a fucking cell. That was 3 years ago. We haven't talked since. I'm so sorry. Sometimes you find out a person is not capable of returning an equivalent level of friendship you give them, even best friends. It's such shit. When I told a close family member that I had PTSD, they made fun of me and then called me a liar. This was years ago and they deny they ever did it too. They still don't think my diagnosed PTSD is legitimate either. My biological mother. She was an abusive person. In pretty much every way possible. This is what finally made me cut her off. My parents put away money for me when I was a kid. About $2,500. Not much, but it would have made a difference when I was in college. It came up a few years after my parents divorced, and I asked Bio Mom about it. She said Dad had borrowed it but never returned it. I asked Dad. He said the same thing about the bitch. So, Dad brought me to the lawyer who had been in charge of the money, and I saw the paperwork. Guess whose signature was on the paperwork to withdraw the money? When I confronted her, the bitch said the lawyer was lying. What? Seriously? Combined with all the other shit she had done to me, I cut contact. I've never regretted it. My own parents. I was 8 and I had this major operation for my CP. My femurs had been broken purposely and I had been placed in a body cast with an attached bar at the ankles that held my legs wide apart. It was cut out where it needed to be so I could use the bathroom. I couldn't roll myself over or sit up. So here I am trapped and puking and bleeding and in horrible pain with all my private junk exposed to the world, and Dad decides to start taking pictures from my feet, and one on my back, the other on my stomach, and there was no blanket or sheet over me. I remember asking him not to, but what was I gonna do? My mother just sat there and said or did nothing. Everyone wonders why we're not close. Yes, I've been in and out of psych care ever since. Thank goodness that operation probably helped me to be out living on my own. Female, if anybody wonders. Never put this in print before. Hope people be kind. I'm sorry. This is fucked up. I hope you're okay. My grandma disowned me cause I call her crazy. And my dad disowned me cause I got pregnant from my fiance cause I didn't wait after marriage. And my cousin wanted to see my vagina saying he's never seen one before. I was 13/14. He was 14/15. I said no, so he proceeded to go and touch me down there over my pants. I was never close with my older brother. My parents drove 8 hours to come see his new house. He wouldn't give them their address until he decided he wanted dinner. So we sat at a restaurant for 2 hours, then he decided he didn't want to see us. So he had them pick up dinner, take it to his house. He of course just took his food and shut the door. Meanwhile, my parents don't want to acknowledge the house I bought, and it's a year later and they still haven't seen it. I should act like a douche. When I discovered my father and sister frauded me in our family business, I don't speak to them anymore and I moved across the country. When I discovered my father didn't like me at Christmas, Would you mind telling the story, good fellow? We always spend Christmas at my grandma's house. My father was drilling with my uncles, as always, and I was talking to my cousins. When I left to drink some water, one of my uncles comes AMD show me a porn video. In that video, the man is playing League of Legends as a girl is sitting on him, struggling to have sex while he completely focused at the game. Then he said, "You father said it is you." He was laughing and was drunk. That didn't impress me, but the fact that my own father said that did. He thinks I'm a loser because I'm a nerd. I don't even like LOL. He knows pretty well I despise that game. That day everything made sense, because he was always weird to me when I talked about games. I could always feel some tension. Now I know why. Nerds are awesome and will rule the world one day. Sex included. My mother-in-law. We're not racist. We have entangled 17 in our family. Also my mother-in-law. Entangled 17. Those people didn't ask you to clean their table because of your skin color. It's because you look young enough to be one of the kids that work there. I was in my 40s and had children with me on a school day they had off. The people working that shift were older and in uniform. Maybe one other POC than me and my kids. When I learned my father allowed my brother and me to suffer the consequences of my mother's untreated depression, it was a realization. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.